What up guys, Ali here and welcome to Ali Talks Music. Add me on Instagram at Ali Talks Music as well. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Now let's get into the video. Around the early 2000s, Timbaland was dominating the producer landscape. With his Beat Club records ready to go, he planned to release many of his protege's projects. The first of which is the album Dark Days, Bright Nights by the down-south country artist known as Bubba Sparxx.
You're choosing from a lot of sounds. How many sounds do you think you have in your whole life, sound library?
Everything. I got every drum machine, every analog keyboard. I mean, you can go on for days.
Bubba Sparxx, born Warren Anderson Matthews, brought an entirely new approach to the rap scene and was one of the very few white rappers at the time to earn almost overnight success. He was born and raised in Georgia to June and Jimmy Mathis. His father was a school bus driver and his mother worked as a cashier in a grocery store. I was born and raised in a small town about 60 miles southwest of Atlanta, LaGrange, a town of 40,000 people, if that. It's supported by the textile industry making fabrics and stuff. It's a distribution center. It ain't much. My mom and dad used to be in the grocery business, and my dad drove a school bus and they ended up owning their own gas station. Though not initially driven to be a rapper, Sparxx enjoyed rapping as a hobby and was introduced to it through his closest neighbor, a male who lived half a mile away from him. His neighbor received rap tapes regularly through the mail from New York City, and they would listen to them religiously until the tapes began to fall apart. They listened to West Coast gangster rap such as NWA, Too Short, Eazy-E, and Atlanta duo Outkast, a group that he was greatly influenced by.
Man, my first exposure to hip hop music, you know what I'm saying? I was just head over heels, hopelessly, just in love with the music, the spirit and attitude of the culture in general. And I always knew that it's just one of those things. I can't remember a day that I was like, this is what I'm going to do, but it definitely, slowly over a period of time of probably about 2 or 3 years, late high school, early, up until I'd say like 17 to 21 during those years, it really just took hold of me that this is what I was going to do, and that's just all there was to it. There was no other option.
At the age of 15 years old, he began to take part in rap battles with his peers who also shared an interest in the style. Initially, Bubba Sparxx's main goal was to play football professionally. In high school, he was a tight end and linebacker, and he earned all-region honors in his senior year. Unfortunately, a knee injury put an end to his dreams of going pro, and since then he had no interest in college, so he turned to his childhood passion, which was rap. At high school, you think you're grown, but you're not. And I was just a clueless little booger, a clueless country-ass little boy. I had no idea about anything and thought I was going to probably play professional football if I got lucky. Bubba was initially discovered by Bobby Stamps, who noticed him rapping after a football match at the University of Georgia and later introduced him to a producer from So So Def. The producer went by the name Shannon Hawkins. Shauna paired Bubba Sparxxx with a rapper named Little Devil to form a group called One Called She. Though the pair did record some music together, the group didn't last very long, and soon Bubba Sparxxx started to pursue a solo career. In 1999, he worked closely with Hawkins and Stamps, and the resulting album was the 12-track wonder Dark Days, Bright Nights. He released the album under his own label, No Sense Records, and it garnered surprising success in Georgia, before eventually falling into the lap of Jimmy Iovine of Interscope Records. Jimmy was the head of Interscope Records at the time, and he liked what he heard. He flew Bubba Sparxxx out to California in an attempt to seal the deal. However, many others were interested in what Bubba Sparxxx had to offer. The high demand for him led to a bidding war between the labels, and after some consideration, Sparxxx chose to stick with Iovine and Interscope Records. Bubba Sparxxx was exceedingly grateful for being signed, once saying, "Yeah, it's been crazy, but I'm just trying to be true to who I am. I come from the South and so that's my style. It comes natural to me, and saying things like that, I love my family, and right now that's all I can tell about." After that, it wasn't long until he was working with big name producers like Timbaland and Organized Noise, while staying true to his roots and continuing to work with Shannon. The four of them released a track that would hit the charts and become one of his most well-known singles. The track was titled Ugly and was a massive success. The corresponding music video released on MTV paid homage to his rural white country background, complete with pigs, tractors, and all.
Also, we just wanted to have a good time. It was a big moment for the community I live in, Athens, Georgia. You know, to have a video shot within the community, and so basically, you know, they just brought in the cameras and we got everybody. It was a true New South moment to just come out, and we just had a good time through a party for 2 days with the cameras rolling.
The track featured Timbaland and sampled Missy Elliott's Get Your Freak On, as well as an uncredited backing from her former protege, Tweet. Ugly was a massive hit and found its way onto multiple charts across the world. It hit number 15 on the Billboard Hot 100 and made its way to number 6 in both the US Billboard Hot Rap Singles Chart and the US Hot R&B Hip Hop Singles Chart. It also did well internationally, making its way to the charts in Belgium, the UK, Netherlands, Norway, and Belgium.
I've been overseas. We spent a little time. We was in London, Amsterdam, Germany, France. We just been really working, trying to hit this road. We did a few days on the Busta Rhymes tour. We actually about to catch up with him in LA, and we just been putting it down, you know, trying to stay busy.
So you just keeping it high, working hard.
Yeah, that's it. I don't know nothing else to do.
Okay.
Then shout out to everybody in the MIA, all the slip and slide folk. Everybody doing it down here. JT Money, been fooling with him for a long time. Poison Clan, everybody in the MIA.
Everybody, one time for y'all. Tiffany, Bubba, and Lala, live from the crib. Holla.
Live at the crib, yes ma'am.
Ugly was one of the most successful singles of Bubba Sparxx's career, second only to his 2005 hit Miss New Booty. The song was later remixed and featured Timbaland doing a different chorus with Miss Jade doing about 2 verses. Following the massive success of Ugly, Interscope produced a reworked version of Dark Days, Bright Nights as the first album under Timbaland's new Beat Club label. The album was an instant hit, turning Bubba Sparxxx from a promising young talent into an overnight superstar. He was one of the very few white rappers to do so at the time and was even referred to as Timbaland's very own down south Eminem. Later on in his career, Bubba Sparxxx gave Eminem credit for paving the way for his career to take off. Shout out to Eminem mainly, but also Haystack, Paul Wall, Lil White, and Yes Me for building the bridge from the early 90s to now.
All right, now when you first came out, you know, it seemed like it was like you were supposed to be the like Eminem's competition or something like that. I heard a lot of comparisons, you know what I'm saying? Because you was like the second white rapper, you know, of its sort.
I think that just all boiled down to the fact, first of all, we was both white. But really and truly, that was where the comparisons began and where they ended. Right there in that same place. Our styles, nothing else was similar about us. The fact that we was both on Interscope, and the fact that we were both signed to prominent black producers, Timbaland and Dr. Dre. You know what I'm saying? And maybe that was like some kind of formula Jimmy Iovine had envisioned or had going on at that time. I don't know, but you know, I know.
Did that used to piss you off when people would make those comparisons and everything? Would you go off?
Nah, I would never go off. Man. I always was able to stay pretty even keel about that kind of stuff. You know, but because I just knew that was just a question people would just ask just because they just wanted to see where it would go. And when they would see it didn't go anywhere, but I wasn't gonna invest any time into, you know, getting into those comparisons because it's not real. It's just imagined, you know what I'm saying? It's just something people wanted to exist, like, and I never put much into it.
The album was released around 2001, it debuted at number 3 on the Billboard Hot 200 and sold about 132,000 copies in the first week. A few months later, it was certified gold by the RIAA. This would mark the album as the most successful of his career, despite releasing a total of 6 albums to date. Hit singles on the album include Ugly, Lovely, Bubba Talk, which featured in The Wash, DJ Pooh's 2001 comedy film, which was released by Aftermath Entertainment.
There goes that damn Bubba, just being his country self. Slide inside Timmy's track and ride it till nothing's left.
And whilst not technically a single, Regardless also received some radio play.
Ain't nothing more, nothing less, I'ma get it off my chest. See how I spit what I feel regardless.
After its initial success and gold rating, the sales for Dark Knight Bright Day skyrocketed to 609,000 before seeming to plateau. These numbers, while quite impressive for a debut, fell short of the success that both Bubba Sparxxx and the label were hoping for. Many critics were unimpressed with his lyrics, and his music was considered a novelty act, even referred to as hick hop. This led to Bubba falling into a bout of depression. After that, he stopped touring and returned home to find some inspiration. On his website, he explained his absence, stating that he needed to understand for himself why anyone would want another album from him. He was afraid that if he did not find a spark, he would become a one-hit wonder. If he was to have any staying power in the rap game, he knew that he would have to return to his roots and find a direction that mattered to him that would later translate into his music. After a year-long hiatus, he found what he was looking for and returned to the spotlight with a new album. Bubba Sparxx's second album, titled Deliverance, was more personal for him. He paid more attention to his southern heritage, rapping about his rural upbringing, with many of his lyrics featuring moonshine, rednecks, hunting, and fishing. The album was released around 2003 by The Beat Club and Interscope Records. Produced by Timbaland and Organized Noise, it featured performances by Justin Timberlake, Kylie Dean, Killy Dean, and Big Rube amongst others. The album performed well on the charts, but not as good as Dark Days, Bright Nights, peaking at number 10 on the Billboard 200 and number 9 on the US Top R&B Hip Hop Albums chart. Sales were abysmally low for this album, selling a week's total of 64,000 copies in the first week. Commercially and on the charts, Deliverance was a disappointment and paled in comparison to the massive success of Dark Days, Bright Nights. Still, critics praised Deliverance as introspective, intense, and sober, accurately portraying the life in the poor white rural South. At times, he was praised for his intensely personal lyrics, and once again for gracefully blending the genres of country and hip-hop. Although he received very mixed reviews from the public when compared to the critics, Bubba Sparxxx himself was pleased with the album and said that no matter where he went from that point, he could rest easy knowing that he put his best work out. Despite its response from the public, Outkast member Big Boi was a huge fan of Deliverance and felt that the mediocre response from the public was due to poor handling by the label. Following this, he offered to sign Sparxxx to his new Purple Ribbon imprint, which Sparxxx accepted. Around 2004, Bubba Sparxxx left Interscope Records and signed with Virgin Records. 2 years later, he released an album called The Charm. The album consisted of 11 songs, including the most successful single of his career, the club banger, Miss New Booty. The song wasn't very similar to his previous material and caught a lot of people off guard. When speaking on the matter, Bubba Sparxxx said the following: "Right, and everybody's like, that's such a different type of song for you. And I'm like, it's really not. I came into the game with a club banger type record, and I've had records about the strip club or about a sultry female on both of my arms, so it's really not that novel of an idea for me. But when you pull the Yin Yang Twins into the mix, and that's what I wanted. I wanted to shock people. People hadn't heard from me in a while, and I wanted to do something that would make a splash. And it worked. It's successful." The Charm performed significantly better than Deliverance, making its way to number 9 on the US Billboard 200 chart. The album also made its way to the Top R&B Hip Hop Albums chart and the US Top Rap Albums chart. This was the first album from Bubba Sparxxx that had very little input from Timbaland. When speaking on his relationship with Timbaland, Bubba Sparxxx said the following: No. He actually produced my first single. I think it's important for people to know that too, because these days it seems like people can't walk on the same side of the street with each other. I think it's important for people to know that me and Tim are A-OK. I'm just really thankful for Big Boi because I had been Dungeon Family affiliated for a while. The album featured appearances from Cool Breeze, Daddy Ken, the Yin Yang Twins, Killer Mike, Frankie J, Scar, and Sleepy Brown. In the first week, the album sold a depressing 51,000 copies. And aside from Miss New Booty, another notable single that the album produced was called Heat It Up. Fans and critics alike were divided on Sparxxx's decision to leave Timbaland in favor of Big Boi and the sudden change in direction of his lyrical content and production team. He seemed to be going more mainstream with his lyrics, and while it was a safer play with respect to sales, he was slowly veering away from his trademark Bubba Sparxxx style. When speaking on the Charm album, Bubba Sparxxx was unsure whether or not he could grab his target audience and said the following: "Man, this is my third album, and I think this time, people are going to have enough evidence to decide whether they will buy into me or not. And it's up to the public to decide, not necessarily even the rap fans, but just the music consumers. That's all kinds of different people, and then people don't buy music. They buy people. It's up to me to be the kind of person that people will buy into, and if I'm that, then we'll see. If I'm not, then I guess I'll go get a job in a factory." Around July of 2006, Miss New Booty was certified gold by the RIAA and once again made its way to many charts. Around 2007, Bubba left Virgin Records to establish his own label, New South Entertainment.
Actually, myself and Petey Pablo are probably about to do an album together. I'm doing some. I'm trying to get my own company off the ground, New South Entertainment. Currently looking for artists for new style. Man, I wouldn't be scared to put somebody from Germany out. So if you got a CD, you got a tape, a demo you've been working on, you here in Germany, give it to me. Put that thing out. And really, I'm just gonna keep working hard, and I'm about to start on a new album titled Deliverance. Me and Timmy are gonna go in the studio probably April 1st, May 1st, and start working on that. And man, just gonna keep moving and keep working. If something pops up, a collaboration, and I'll certainly do it if it's something I believe in.
Which was distributed by E1 Records. He released just one mixtape with DJ Burn, one titled Survive Till You Thrive, before going off the grid due to opiate addiction. The addiction developed around 2003, but came to a head in 2006, which he refers to as his Miss New Booty days. Although he was going for treatment, he was miserable and in the depths of his addiction. He had realized how serious the problem was, despite it not being obvious to the public. He tried to stay clean by keeping a short distance between himself and music, as the two went hand in hand. But every time he went back into the recording studio, the addiction would come back knocking. However, after a bad relapse around 2008, in which he was caught in a restaurant with opiates, and while having no prescription, he finally got his wake-up call and checked himself into a rehab. After that, he stayed away from the studio and returned home to Georgia. He then focused on nurturing himself and taking care of the farm. It wasn't until around 2011 when he returned to the studio after making significant progress in his therapy. Around 2006 and into 2007, I had some serious struggles with drug addiction around the Miss New Booty time. I found a bunch of Miss New Booties, got real high, and the parties didn't stop there for about 2 straight years. I went to rehab, came out, and really just lost the love. I had signed another deal with E1 Entertainment, so I came out after rehab and had just lost love for music. I went about 1.5 years without going to the studio for one day. I hadn't actively said it, I hadn't declared retirement, but I had just stopped making music. And then I got some inspiration. That would have been like 2008 through 2009. I got some inspiration and started going back to the studio when I was signed to E1, which was Koch back then. Now around 2012, Bubba Sparxx got into big trouble with the IRS because he neglected to pay his income taxes for the year 2006. According to the tabloids, the Georgia Department of Revenue claimed that he owed them over $15,000 in taxes, but due to his refusal to pay them and accumulated interest, the number swelled to about $30,000. However, just a week after the news broke out, Bubba Sparxx came out and explained that the real number he owed them was almost 10 times greater. When asked how it happened, he explained that he was ignoring his taxes because he was doing things that he was not supposed to do. I was having a good time and just wasn't attentive to a lot of issues. My main issue was Mr. Taxman, which I neglected because of doing things I had no business doing. This past year, I have now changed all of that. I have stopped partying and hanging out. I got a tax lawyer and a business account to get my tax situation handled. I plan on paying my debt with my new album. The IRS appeared at his house in an attempt to find and seize his assets, but finding none, they left empty-handed. After realizing how serious his situation was, Bubba Sparxx hired a lawyer and a business accountant. He also stopped partying and started working on another album, the proceeds of which were intended to cover his tax repayments. He went back to music and signed to Backroad Records, a subsidiary of the independent label Average Joe's Entertainment, owned by the loyal Shannon and Colt Ford. Under this label, he released his 4th album called Pain Management around 2013. It was the first time he had released music in 7 years and featured performances by Colt Ford, Rodney Atkins, Danny Boone, Dan Rocket, Crucifix, Dirt Reynolds, Daniel Lee, and Lax. The album made its way to the US Billboard Top Country Albums chart, where it peaked at number 40. 2014 was a very eventful year for Bubba Sparxx. He released an album called Made on McCosh Mill Road and an EP titled the Bubba Mathis EP. More importantly, in that year, he started dating 2010's Miss Iowa, who goes by the name Katie Connors. 2 years later, they tied the knot, and to date they are still happily married with no children or rumors of a split on their horizon. Around 2018, Bubba Sparxx released Rapper from the Country, which performed on the same level as Made on McCosh Mill Road. Other artistic pursuits for this year included playing the main character in the 13-minute dramatic short, The Auctioneer, a movie about an auctioneer turned rapper. Around 2019, he starred in a documentary titled Country Rap, a documentary. It was supposed to be released around 2019, but it's unclear if it even aired. Around 2020, he released King of Crap, which performed even worse than its predecessors. The project consisted of 8 tracks and had a running time of only 22 minutes. Despite his albums consistently performing poorly and his sales declining after each album release, he tried again around 2021. He released an EP called Crap God. It only had 6 tracks and had a running time of just 14 minutes. Around 2021, he released a single called Tell Them, which featured Charlie P. Bubba Sparxx is still very active in the music industry as he keeps releasing music periodically. Nowadays, he lives a much quieter and healthier life. Though he does still make music, he works out at least 4 times a week, eats healthier, and drinks alcohol a lot less. I got up to 290 pounds, and it was just to the point where it was so uncomfortable. I'm like 5'11", and I have a medium frame, so it was just a lot of weight to carry. I went out to LA, and I was out there with a good friend of mine, and he had gained a lot of weight too. And we just looked at each other and we were like, this is not what life's about. He's active on social media and has a relatively sizable following. You can find him on Instagram at Bubba Matthews, where he has about 130,000 followers. Bubba Sparxx is also on Twitter at TheRealBubbaK, and he has about 30,000 followers. Despite his early success, Bubba's fame seems to have faded significantly, and even though he releases music, he has become more of a family man in contrast to his earlier hip-hop country bad boy image. Bubba Sparxx gets 1.2 million monthly listeners on Spotify, and his most popular songs on the platform are Miss New Booty, Deliverance, Outback, Country Folks, and Country to the City. That's it for me, man. It's your boy Ali. What happened to Bubba Sparxx in your opinion? Let me know down below. If you have a video request, be sure to let me know as well. New What Happened to video dropping next week. Also add me on Instagram at Ali Talks Music. Till next time, adios.